More pipe work on the tomato, although not exhaust pipe, hydraulic pipe. This is one of the pipes that goes from the near side suspension strut, and I have to recreate this. This isn't how it all got bent so I could pull it out. That is actually how it's meant to be. I've changed it because it runs from the near side suspension strut down along the bulkhead over the exhaust and into a union, and in certain places it looks a bit like that, which is suboptimal, flaky, and if this fails you will sink quickly. So it seems, oh yeah, it's pretty weak. That's steel. It's just, yeah, that's definitely weakened. There's not a lot in that. So I'm making a new one at the moment, and then when I've made the new one I've got to try and fit it. But when Citroen make these, what they tended to do when they built a BX was to take it, form it, bend it into shape, hang it from the ceiling on a piece of string, and then build the car around it. And I can't do that. I can't disassemble the car, really. So I've got to try and make it and then squeeze it in through all the gaps and put it in all the original clips and everything like that without it being rubbish, which could be tricky. The pipe itself runs from this sphere. It comes out of this hole and down and around and loops and down there, under there, over the top of the exhaust, along, and then down to the bottom of the subframe on that side. So as you can imagine, that is involving to get out. So I've had to do that. This one is still fitted, so you can see where it's got all these bends and loops and twizzles and whatnot. I don't know if I'm going to have to do, I don't think I am going to have to do that one. I mean, I could do that one. I'll have a look before the fuel hoses go in. But yeah, it's a bit of a faff, but the thing is, these pipes are old. I mean, it's like 1988 this car was built, so they're getting on. And if one of them fails, well, you sink, like the Titanic. I can make that joke because I had family on the Titanic. So I think, yeah, I think I'll make that one. There might be one or two others underneath that need doing. There's a couple that run along the subframe. It's been done before, but not brilliantly. So there's one or two across the subframe. You can't just change all, you can't just go, I mean, I'm sure James would love to go, well, just change them all, because that seems to be what he wants to do, because this is going to be a really nice car when this is done, because he does have that attitude. I'm going to put the camera down, my arm's going dead. But yeah, I think in the real world, we're just needing to change things that are actually broken. And that being the case, there are one or two underneath that are looking not quite as good, but this was the worst one of all of them. And you've got to take the exhaust out to get to it, and you've got to having the steering rack out makes it a lot easier to get to it, so it's the natural time to do it. The alternative is taking the engine out, which I've done already, and then I refitted it for the purposes of the doser valve video. I'm going to make a pipe. No sparks involved today, just pipe. So yeah, this is a bit of a funny one. So you've got to bend it and shape it and twizzle it and make it, well, I actually used the original P-clip there to hold it in place, but you're never going to be able to get it absolutely spot on like that there. There's a bit of a difference here at the moment, as you can see, but I can adjust that, and that can be tweaked to suit. I've pre-flared this end, and I'll show you the flares later on. I'll show you how the flares work, but because they're not the same as conventional brake lines. So what I need to do now is replicate another radius in that. So I'm going to use my little, I always get muddled up which way around I'm supposed to be. Nope. And you can bend it by hand, but this one's quite good because it goes all the way around. So how have I done? Oh, not bad, not bad. I can actually, conifer is easier to work with than steel, so you can just tweak it. Yeah, so we're getting there. But yeah, it's kind of like lots of that really. It's a bit of a faff. Put a little kink there, and then for the tighter radiuses I have another bender, which is just does tighter radiuses basically. And yeah, I basically carry on working my way down until it looks something like that. I have cut this at this end. So originally this was longer. I don't know where the other end went. I should probably find that. The other end comes out a bit longer, only about here, and it just loops back and goes into this union block. Don't know where that's gone. It's either started raining heavily or there are birds on the roof doing bird things. So yeah, but I'm going to make this all in one piece. The only difference is this bend here. This is where it goes down the inner wing and then goes across the chassis rail and then down. That's that bit there. So that's the inner wing here, and the strut's up here, and it goes under the battery or behind the battery, down and around, down on the subframe. Originally that was sort of bent like that, and that was originally bent like that. I'm not going to do anything from here. I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to leave it kind of straight, and that means I can feed it through everything when I put it back in, and then I'll have to bend it in position, so it won't be absolutely OE when it's in place, but hopefully it will. Well, you're following the original clips and things, so hopefully it should go pretty much where it used to. It might not look identical, but in the engine bay I'd quite like it to, even though it's going to be bright shiny conifer, not old manky rusty steel. I'm not doing the other side just for looks. No, I'm not. No. There are a number of differences with Citroen pipes and normal pipes. This is a normal brake pipe. Well, it's not, this is a scrap, but this is a bit I found in the drawer. That is a single flare end. So basically that's the same thing you have in, well, tons of cars really. You know, any car with conventional brakes will have this system pretty much. The only real variations in it are sometimes the diameter of the pipe, but it's very rare. That's, what do they call this in old school? 3/16, I think. And this is the union here. This is a male union because it goes in like that. So, sorry, that's just how it is. Sometimes these are metric thread and sometimes they are silly thread, but they are pretty much the same thing. Single flare, if you were to make it a double flare, you'd make this flare using a brake flaring tool, and then you'd have like a conical thing that screws in and pushes into that and flares it open and makes it kind of like a, you know, a V-shaped cup, if you like, pushes that in a bit back inside, and in that case you would use a female union. But you know, that's pretty much as they work. That is, most cars, if it's British or American, well, if it's British up to about late 80s maybe, it'll be the funny threads, Imperial, and if it's European it'll be metric because they were ahead of us in that regard, and if it's American it's still in the arbitrary 212 degrees is boiling point. 212. Citroen's different, perhaps unsurprisingly. So for a start, you've got 3 different pipe sizes. The standard suspension pipe is the smallest one, which is 3.5 mil, and it's stuck. Yeah, 3.5 mil. This is the original end that was on the Tomato that went along the subframe and into the union. You'll see the main difference with these is the flare is there, and then they have a rubber seal that goes on there. Have I got one to hand to show you? I can find one. Oh, that's the new one. I don't want to go prattling around with a new one. So there's one of the rubber seals, and basically all that happens is they go on there like that, and it kind of pushes on thus, like that, and then that goes inside the bore of whatever you're screwing it into, and when you do this up, all you're doing is pushing that hose inside the joint, or that rubber seal inside the joint, and you think, oh, that sounds a bit cack. Well, yes and no. It is, but at the same time it's not, because what it actually does is it self-seals. So the more the pressure builds up, the more that seals. They're quite nifty. The difference between the original, or the normal brake fitting, is that doesn't have constant pressure against it. This does. That only has pressure against it when you're pushing the brake pedal, and that is only when you're stopping, and the amount of pressure on that is proportionate to how hard you're pushing the pedal. This, if it's in the suspension circuit, always has at least, well, old school 2000 psi, maybe just under, on it, always. This, every now and then it has a bit. So the other sizes you can get 4.5mm pipe, which this is a seal from a 4.5mm. It's the same, just bigger. And then there's also 6.5. I don't have any of those. You might also be wondering why, I've made this end now, why this is all springy and curly here. Well, it's very simply because it makes it bendy, allows it to flex. If you just had it one rigid line, as you do see some people do, that's stupid, because if it's one rigid line, there's no bend in it, and if there's no bend, it will crack eventually, because it's got a hell of a lot of pressure behind it. So that's why all Citroen pipes, BX rear arms don't have brake flexi hoses at all. Like most cars have flexi hoses on the brakes. On the back of a BX it doesn't, it's all done on that coil. So yeah, I'm nearly done. I'm just going to flare this end, so I thought I would show you how it goes. It's very, very interesting. So that's the phone. Someone very rudely wanted to talk to me. So yeah, what you normally have on a brake flaring tool is, as I say, you have the normal ends like this. These are single flare ends, and then the double flare end is one of them. So that's on a brake pipe, or fuel pipe, or whatever. The Citroen one's a little bit different. Oh, there's a double flare one there, look. The Citroen one's a bit different, it's that. And then on this end you have this jaw that it goes in. So the pipe sits inside that, pokes out to the end here. Obviously there's one on the other side, so you've got the size written on there to remind you. I'm not moving till you focus. You can be reluctant if you want. I've got all the time in the world, buddy. Oh, you are being reluctant. There you go. Oh, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so that's the yeah, that's the jaw. So basically the pipe sits in here, the other end of it goes in here, and then when you do the thing up, it pushes together like that. But there's a little flare in the end there that allows the pipe, I'm not going to bother waiting for that to focus, you end up with a little flare in there for the pipe to sort of expand into, and that creates the little bobble that holds the seal in. So the little bobble is the technical term for that. So you just put this, actually they're dead easy to make. Just got to make sure you haven't got the little bobble too far up the pipe. I mean, as long as it's generally go for like the length of the seal plus a tiny bit for luck, but what you don't want to do is have it too long, because then it will bottom out before the seal does. But it's basically the depth of that, so it's not really a problem. Oh, that's loose. Right, let's get that in there. So, and then all you do is, I have put a union on first. That's what you do. You check that you put a union on first, because if you haven't, you're an idiot. Ask me how I know. And then line it up. It'll go on 3. Then it starts to bite. But I always put my finger on the back to make sure it's not pushing it back out again. Sometimes, if this isn't tight enough, it can, but it's not. Oh God, I hate it when it does that. That's about it. You don't go nuts with it. You don't lean on it even harder than you need to. And then we have a bobble. Yeah, of course, I said that little spirally bit on the pipe was for springiness, and it is kind of, but it's also for the clamp, which you'd think I'd remember, seeing as I took it out for about an hour before I filmed that. Okay, so this being the tomato, things have escalated naturally. So that pipe there is the one that you can't see that. That pipe there is the top of the one I made, up top. And it goes into this little union down here, which is fine. Only this little union down here has the remains of a seal in it, which I can't get out. No matter which picky type tools I use. There you go, you can actually see it. I cannot get it out, it's just breaking up. It's just coming out in little tiny bits. So then I thought, well, okay, well, I'll take the union off. And then I realised that the pipe here, this one here is for the offside suspension strut. And I think that's looking a bit manky. I could be wrong, it might be that it's just caked in gunk. But I've got to take it off so I can get the union off, so I can get the bits of rubber out of it, because otherwise bits of rubber will go in the system, and that's not good. And then this one here is the one that comes from the height corrector. So the height corrector is up here on the axle, on the anti-roll bar actually, and that's what's registering the height of the car, and it feeds fluid down here, the height corrector, if it's opening or shutting, into this manifold, this union, and then that then dissipates through this hose, pipe, sorry, and this pipe. Goes to the struts, pumps the struts up. So, wow, and it goes into the spheres, and pumps the struts up through that thing at the top, you know what I mean? So, I'm going to change this one because that one's rusty at the top, but that's only a short one, so that's no big deal. But I might also have to change the one on the other side here, and to compound problems, I've lost my 8mm spanner. I had it just then, and now it is gone. Oh, no, it's there. So, yeah, this is snowballing once more, entirely appropriately, as is the tomato's way, Professor Tomato. And I haven't even started putting the steering rack back in yet. I knew there were some pipes I would end up doing. Haven't put the fuel hoses back in yet, because they go through this, past this bit, so you can. It's one of those things where it's like, well, if you've taken this, and this out, then you might as well do that, and that as well, because if you don't, if they're looking a bit sad, then chances are in a year, 2 year, 3 years time, they'll be out anyway. So you might as well just do it. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not had everything done. Far from it, there's plenty it will need doing on it. None of this is very nice. But where'd you stop? When say not very nice, it works, it's just been done by a monkey. Look at the state of that. Someone's had this subframe off, and then they've just guessed at the order the pipes are supposed to go back in, which is a very ham-fisted way of doing it. But they have got it all plumbed up right because it works. Now I've got to take the front struts out anyway. Again, another job that if you're doing this, and this, you might as well do that. Because the front struts need new gaiters fitting. God, that is really reluctant to come out. Yeah, come on, there you go. God, this is properly in there. Ow! Right, that's what I was trying to get out. This thing, which will not focus. There you go. And there's loads of little rubber seals trapped inside it. So what's that like? Is that rust? Let us have a look. Is it rust or is it underseal? Oh, I think it might be underseal. They can look strangely similar. Underseal on a pipe or oil over rust. Need a slightly stronger brush, but yeah, I think that is actually. Yes. Okay, well I'll check it further up, but that's got the original coating still on it. So that's good. A couple of little specks on it, but I mean that has got a long time left in it. Okay, that's good. It's very mucky under here. So there's the little union thing, which I've now cleaned up. And I don't know if you can see in there, but probably not, because this bloody camera. Focus here. Look. Why are you looking behind? There you go. Jesus, I can't even see in there anyway. Just about, just mangled rubber all the way through it. So, a bit more work, but it's got to come off because there's no. You don't want to risk getting any of this in the system, because as you can imagine, it won't do it any good.